Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 18th, 2022 Longmont City Council Study Session. As a reminder, this meeting can be viewed in the live stream at www.longmontcolorado.gov. You can also see it on the city's YouTube channel at www.longmontpublicmedia.org. Also on Comcast channels 8 or 880. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Peck,
Present.
Councilmember Hidalgo Faring,
Here.
Councilmember Martin,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilmember Waters,
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak at first call public invited to be heard will need to put his or her name on the list outside the council chambers. Only those on the list will be invited to speak at the first public invited to be heard. And each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. You need to state your name and address, please. This is going to be a short meeting tonight, it looks like. Do we have any motions from councilors to direct the city manager to add agenda items to future agendas? Seeing none, we'll move right into the public invited to be heard. The very first person on our list is Michelle Bennett. Hi, Michelle. Yes, please, and you need to turn on the microphone. Perfect.
All right. Michelle Bennett, 203 Francis Street, Longmont, Colorado. Good evening. Thank you for being here to listen to us. The first thing I'd like to do is thank the City of Longmont Planning, Development, and Engineering teams for helping the Bond Farm neighbors answer questions and get a sense of a development that is going to be put in the Bond Farm area. What looks like maybe a highly populated, densely populated development. And so I really would like to thank everybody from the City of Longmont who has helped me and my Bond Farm neighbors. So in doing so, in talking to many of the people I've talked to, one of the interesting things that interesting people I talked to was Kevin from the Office of Emergency Management. And because it made me think of how if you plunk a large amount of people that weren't there before, and even if it's a venue or if it's 75 units, into an area that is already very, the infrastructure can hardly handle what's there already, especially if you have a venue. Let's say we went to Red Rocks and the concert's out and everybody leaves through maybe 2 small areas. If anybody's ever done that, you know what it's like to have backup. Well, in today's world, I think it's about time that we all really face the idea that things like the Marshall Fire, our 2013 floods, gun violence, accidents happen. And we need to start thinking about emergency management and how when we start a new development or when anything like that happens, that the Office of Emergency Management also get involved with the planning and development. I'd like to say, oh yeah, we don't think that's going to happen, but it does. And the environment is changing. It's very clear throughout the world. As far as violence is concerned, looking at, I think it was the Boston Marathon. I mean, It just happens, and we have to think about this now. It's not just something we can blow off. And if we just plunk a bunch of people in a venue and expect them to all be able to leave in an emergency, and they don't have the avenue in which to do it, then it's going to cause a lot of problems. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michelle. John Pillman.
John Pillman, 1303 Spruce Avenue. Thank you, Mayor Peck, council members. With the dramatic increase of high-density infill projects being proposed and taking place within the city of Longmont, the time to re-examine our municipal codes designed to protect both the city of Longmont and residents is now. The impact of these infill projects will be even more dramatic in the historical areas of Longmont, where many of the homes were built 80, 90, or even 100 years ago. The need to ensure these buildings and residences are protected from damage resulting from construction activities is now more apparent than ever. We believe existing municipal code does not sufficiently call out the types of damage to public infrastructure improvements that the developer and contractor must be responsible for in protecting against damage and repairing any damage that occurs as a result of these construction activities. We believe specific public improvements should be called out, including streets, sidewalks, sewer pipes, water pipes, etc. The city should also be concerned about damage caused to existing public infrastructure from heavy construction equipment, dump trucks, earth-moving equipment, construction cranes, etc. Equipment of this type can weigh anywhere from 20,000 to 60,000 pounds and place severe stresses on residential streets and underlying subgrade, pipes, etc. We are proposing that the city require a pre-development survey be conducted along any residential streets that will be used by the developer and contractor to access the building site. This would include an assessment of the existing public infrastructure, likelihood of damage to the infrastructure due to heavy equipment operation for the duration of the development or project proposed. This survey should also attempt to determine the likelihood that existing residences located along the city streets used for site access will be impacted by construction-related activities. For example, if sewer pipes are damaged from construction vehicle weight and vibration, is it likely to cause damage to residential sewer pipes? Finally, we're asking that the city issue a memorandum to all residents located within 1,000 feet of the construction site at least 90 days prior to any construction commencing. This memorandum would inform local residents of the roads that will be impacted by the development and potential impacts caused by vibration, dust, etc. The type of notice should give concerned residents enough time to arrange for any inspections deemed appropriate, home foundation, sewer pipes, walls, roofing, etc., prior to any development construction activities commencing. These pre-construction inspections have been recommended by an insurance provider to help protect the homeowner and give the insurance provider an avenue to pursue damages to the developer or contractor. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Antoinette Kemper.
Antoinette Kemper, 5th Avenue, Longmont. When my husband and I retired from the Air Force and moved here in 2008, Longmont was a fairly quiet, safe, friendly community with uncongested roads. A lot has changed. Some changes, such as the greenway improvements and new small businesses moving in, are good. Others, not so good. Longmont has become noisy, congested, with more taxes, more fees, an ever-increasing cost of living, and a rising crime rate. Larceny, auto theft, and burglary top Longmont's crime list, with aggravated assault close behind. We all have an interest in preventing crime. However, I submit to you that the gun control proposals being considered are not the answer. Restricting the rights of law-abiding gun owners does little to nothing to stop violent crime. The proposals being considered aren't even original. They copy those being pushed in surrounding communities, which are neither fully vetted for their legality nor proven effective. In fact, we've seen more and more gun control measures implemented, yet crime rates continue to rise. So why are we committed to this failed approach? Statistically, a large number of gun-related crimes are committed by criminals using stolen guns. The anti-gun advocates may argue if no one owned guns, they couldn't be stolen and used in violent crimes. However, if someone steals your car, hits and kills a pedestrian, You shouldn't be banned from owning a car. If someone breaks into your home, steals your prescription drugs, sells them, and someone ODs on them, you shouldn't be banned from being legally prescribed medication. Punishing the victim is not the answer. Kitchen knives, baseball bats, even your hands can be lethal weapons. The presence of a gun does not determine that a crime will be committed. The presence of a criminal with intent and the opportunity does. So, remove the opportunity for criminals to commit crimes, support our police, allow them to do their jobs of law enforcement. A strong police presence is effective in preventing crime. The defund the police movement has been bad for everyone except criminals. Additionally, jails should not be a rotating door, allowing repeat offenders to be let off with a slap on the wrist and set free to keep committing crimes. We must also seek solutions to the root causes of what motivates people to turn to crime, and whether that's outreach to at-risk youth or other such programs. Whatever your views of guns are, restricting the rights of legal gun owners also restricts your own individual rights. Once rights are surrendered, they do not come back. In 2001, one guy put explosives in his shoes, got on a plane, and 20 years later, we're still taking off our shoes at airports. So, in conclusion, I urge you that we need to move away from failed emotionally based reactions to the crime problem, come together with our opposing perspectives, and find creative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette. Lance Whitaker.
Lance Whitaker, 1750 Collier Street. I've been a resident for 40 years. Voting libertarian, long live the porcupine. I'd like to say today's national day is National Chocolate Cupcake Day. Thank you. It's also No Beard Day. So next Tuesday I will be clean shaven for y'all. You all have a good day.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome.
Stephen Altschuler.
Good evening. Steve Altschuler, 1555 Taylor Drive. First, I'd like to offer a short correction from last week. I said that, let me get the right page here, that annual gun deaths in America were less than 1/3 of 1% of car deaths. What I meant was it should have been from mass shootings. So that did not include suicides or drive-by shootings or whatever, but strictly from mass shootings is 1/3 of 1%. And I've actually got a graph here that shows that I'll just leave right here if any of you want to look at that later. Excuse me. So we've talked about this before, and I know that you've all sworn to uphold the Constitution. I'm sure you also swore to do what is best for the citizens of Longmont. You should be spending your time and the tax money of Longmont citizens on promoting the prosecution of criminals. That will help our businesses and it will help our citizens. In August, the City Council of Aurora, I believe, I'm pretty sure I'm right, passed an ordinance saying that anyone convicted of robbery, regardless of the amount, would serve a minimum of 3 days in jail. Several years ago, crime started going through the roof when Lord Polis said that anybody stealing less than $950 could get off scot-free. So Aurora said, we've had enough of that. We're going to protect our citizens and our businesses. And I suggest that you guys would consider doing the same thing. Also, I'd like to know, why are we a sanctuary city? From my understanding, this is only a protection for illegals and criminals. It does nothing to help the citizens of Longmont, and it does nothing to help the businesses of Longmont. So I would say to you, please do your job. Don't be a rubber stamp for Boulder. And when you look at things that will help the city, the citizens of Longmont and the businesses of Longmont, and then Longmont will prosper no matter what happens in other cities. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Stephen. I do want to make a statement. This is out of order. We are not a sanctuary city. We never voted on that. So that's it. No, we're done discussing. I just wanted to correct that since we're being viewed. Gary Hodges.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Councilmen, Councilwomen. It's nice to be here tonight. My name is Gary Hodges. I'm at 2148 Stewart Street. I'm one of the 3 candidates running for the at-large seat in this year's special election. It's been fun. I've never run for office before. Having a lot of fun. I'm sure all of you did too in your races. One of the things that I've been doing is participating in forums that different groups are hosting. For example, the Longmont Area Democrats or the League of Women Voters, and there's another one of those forums on Thursday. And those are nice. They're valuable for the few people that watch and the few people that might tune into YouTube to view them. They'll gain something from those forums. But I'm looking at the counts on them, and the League of, LAD, Democrat hosted one tonight, had 120 views. The League of Women Voters, I think, was up to 7. So we haven't even broken double digits yet. And the first forum that the candidates participated in was the Longmont Landlords and Tenant Association, and for some reason they haven't made that publicly available, which is really unfortunate because that was kind of, everybody was a bit raw in there, not in an aggressive way, but I just mean not polished. And I think we got some really honest and interesting answers from all the candidates. I'd really like to see that made public. I know you guys don't have direct control over that, but I have something I would like to do, and I don't know how to suggest it other than here. I think this is the most public forum I can find in the city. And I would like to advocate for a debate of the 3 candidates where there's no subject matter topics beforehand, where we all get on stage and we take hard and difficult questions and we're forced to answer on the spot. I've never participated in a debate before in any form, high school or whatever. But I think it'd be a lot of fun. I might fall on my face, or maybe I'd rise to the occasion. But it would be valuable, and it would be valuable for the citizens of Longmont to see how the candidates can react and how they can think without notes, taking questions, and having a real debate on stage. So that's why I'm here. To whatever extent you're able to do that, I would like to advocate for that. The forum, like I said, the forums are nice. There's been an interview. Reagan Sample offered interviews to the 3 candidates. Sean and I participated in that. I think I'm like 180 views. Sean's about 60. I don't think Mitzi took part in it. Boulder Longmont Realtors, they offered interviews. Those are out there, but these are all being viewed by just really small numbers. And I'm really struggling with ways to get our messages out. Selfishly, I want to get my message out, but it would also help the other candidates get their messages out. So, so I would like to request a forum in strongest way I can, and that's standing here this evening. So whatever we can do, please help for a debate, excuse me, not a forum. I'd like to suggest we have a debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Let's see. So we are now at, well, we've already done that. This is a very short meeting. That closes public invited to be heard. We have special reports and presentations, and we're going to have the first one on the 2022 Customer Satisfaction Survey. Looks like Rigo Leal is going to be our presenter.
Well, actually, I'm going to introduce our presenter. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rigo Leal. I'm the city's Public Information Officer, and I'm here to introduce Esther Campbell from ETC Institute. She's representing the company that conducted the city's customer satisfaction survey this past year. This is the 18th community-wide survey that the city has conducted since 1996, and the results of those past surveys can be found online at the city's website. And the results of the 2022 survey can be found there tomorrow morning. So with that brief overview, I would like to introduce Esther Campbell.
Thank you, Rigo, Mayor Peck,
council members, thank you so much for inviting me to your city. This is my first time in Longmont. I've been to Colorado before, but I haven't been to Longmont, and I absolutely love it. I told Sandy and Riga that this is on my second list of I might live here. It's really one thing that I really love about my job is that I see the data, I analyze it, and I get a picture of the community in my head. But it's a whole other thing when I come to the community and it actually comes alive. So it's really cool when I can hear and see what the folks are saying about your community, and then I see it and I'm like, aha, like perfect. So what I'm going to show you tonight is a great representation of what the community is saying. As Rigo said, my name is Esther Campbell. I was the lead project manager for this project. I work for ETC Institute. We were founded in 1982. We're coming on our 40th year anniversary. We were founded by the late Dr. Elaine Tatham, and we are one of the nation's leading provider of market research. My department, we work in community research. We do Parks and Rec needs assessments, community planning surveys, and many other business surveys, etc. But we really want, our heart is to obtain statistically valid survey, so that helps the leaders to make data-driven decisions. Since 2012, we have surveyed more than 3 million people in over 1,000 communities, and we have also done surveys in 3 international communities as well. Today I'm going to talk to you about the purpose of the survey, methodology. I'm going to go over trends and benchmarks, some key survey findings, opportunities for improvement, give you a brief summary, and then open up for questions. Point, I hope this data encourages you all. Of course, there are opportunities, but I really was excited to when I got the data and I presented it to the staff, and now I'm super excited to present it to you all as well. So the purpose of the survey, we wanted to gather input from residents to help city leaders set priorities for the community, to objectively assess resident satisfaction with the delivery of city services, and we also wanted to get a good understanding of where the city is, and also have the ability to track the city's performance against itself and also other communities over time. It was a 7-page survey. It included a cover letter, and these questions were designed to assess city satisfaction with city services and perceptions of the city. It was administered by mail and online. We didn't need to do any phone calling. And we also followed up and encouraged residents to participate with text, emails, and postcards. The statistically valid was the random sample that it was open for 3 weeks during July. It was the first week of July and it ended the last week of July. And then we opened up for the general public to put in their opinions that did not, the general public that did not receive a survey in the mail, and that was open for 2 weeks. But tonight we're going to be specifically talking about, at least the data that I will be showing you will be the random statistically valid survey. So our goal was 800 completed surveys, and we had an amazing engagement from the community. We actually collected over 1,031 completed surveys. That gives us a margin of error of a plus or minus of 3% at the 95% margin level of confidence. It's way too late to have a statistics class. So basically what that means is if we were to conduct the same exact survey 100 times, to a random sample of residents, we would get the same results, plus or minus that 3%. We had a great representation of age, as you see here. All the slices of the pie are pretty even. Great representation by gender as well. And then race here. The top bar is the survey results, and then the U.S. Census we got from the 2020 U.S. Census numbers. As you can see here, all groups are represented very well, almost neck and neck, actually. So this data is really great representation of the community. Even with income, pretty even around here. The 50K to 80K is a little buff there, but it makes sense with the Longmont median household income is $79,000, and that is from the U.S. Census. We also ran GIS. So these little red dots represent a completed survey. So we also made sure that we had a great representation across the city as a whole. Trends. So first, we did a long range and short range trends. I'm just going to show the short range. So increases in satisfaction. Ease of travel by car in Longmont was the highest, with an increase of 24% since 2018. Access to affordable quality health care was at 18%. Availability of public parking, 9%. Access to affordable quality housing as a place to find a job, trash and garbage collection services, and then educational opportunities for all ages. There were 29 out of 50, so 56 comparable trends that we could compare from the years. 29 had increases and 26 had decreases, and 1 did not change. Decreases, the top 7 was the overall quality of police services, fell 25%. Enforcement of local traffic laws fell by 23%. And then I have an asterisk by those 2, and the efforts by police to prevent crime fell 16% since 2018. However, I have the asterisk because this does follow trends since 2020, our national trends. As I said, we've conducted many community surveys across the nation, and since 2020, we have seen a decline. So Longmont is not different or unique, but we've seen a decline nationally with police services, visibility, enforcement of local traffic laws, etc. Benchmarking. So ETC Institute, we conduct a national community survey to over 9,000 communities across the nation every year. I use the 2022 national community survey that we conducted ourselves. And so right here we're looking at Longmont versus the national average. And these are the top 7. Recycling services and drop-off location had the highest difference of 42% compared to the national average, which is just phenomenal. Overall quality of electric utility services, 38% above. As a place to live, 38% above. And then I wanted to point out here, overall feeling of safety in the city was 25% over the national average. So although we see a decrease in police satisfaction in the police services and enforcement of traffic laws, folks do feel safe in the city. And that was something that I talked to Sandy and Rigo earlier about is I got into town and I feel safe. And I don't know if it's because, and as we'll see later, as the community says, it feels like it has that small town feel. So I don't know if that is why I feel safe or not. But overall, residents feel safe in the community. We only had 3 services that were under the national average. That was the maintenance of city parks, grounds, and facilities, and that was 5% under the national average. Efforts of police to prevent crime in the community, and then enforcement of local traffic laws. The regional average, we compared you all against the mountain average, which included Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, and I'm missing one. Excuse me. I'm missing one. I'm sorry. I'll look at my notes. Actually, I have them right here. New Mexico. Yeah. So we compared you all to the mountain region. So the top 6 overall, I wanted to point out as a place to live was 42% over the regional average. Just amazing. Overall quality of city services, over 41% over the regional average. City's efforts to keep residents informed, 34%. How important that is has been over the last couple of years with everything happening. And then the availability of information about city services was over 32%. And then the six categories that were under the regional average, as a place to retire was 3% under the regional average. Maintenance of city parks, grounds, and facilities. Quality of on-street bicycle infrastructure, which we'll see later in the results. That's something that is important to folks, is the on-street bicycle infrastructure. As a place to visit was 6% under the regional average compared to your comrades in the mountain region. Enforcement of local traffic laws and efforts by police crime were 10% under the regional average. Then I wanted to have a little bit of fun with your benchmarks. I wanted to compare Longmont, Colorado, in customer service speaking, I wanted to compare Longmont, Colorado with Westminster, Colorado. This was a very recent survey that we conducted for them. And this data is from our own community surveys that we have conducted. And these are high-performing communities. Westminster, which is pretty comparable in population, and it's close by. So what we see here is Longmont. You are over the average in the way city employees treat residents, how easy the city is to contact, overall customer service provided by the city, accuracy of information and assistance, overall responsiveness of city employees to requests. You all are over the average of these communities, and these are high-performing communities. But what I really wanted to point out was the community over to the far right is Overland Park, Kansas. They're almost double your size, and you beat them in every category except one, the way residents are treated by city employees, but it's by 1%. So you're on the heel. Well, actually, you're beating a very high-performing community in Overland Park, Kansas, which that is a suburb. That is in the suburb of Kansas City, so it's really close to my home. So I mean, that's just give yourselves a pat on the back for the way that you treat residents. So we're just going to jump through some key survey findings. Residents are very likely to recommend the city to others as a place to live. And we see this here where 84% of residents are likely to recommend the city. So all that blue right there are saying, heck yeah, I'd be telling others to come live here. Which, if you told me, I would be right here in a second. Quality of life, overall we see here, as a place to live, overall quality of life in the neighborhood as a place to live, really just outstanding numbers here. Folks rated excellent or good in pretty much all aspects. The three aspects that was a little bit low under majority of saying excellent and good was as a place, Longmont as a place to shop, access to affordable quality childcare, and then also we're going to be hearing about access to affordable quality housing as well, which that was 23% folks rated Longmont as excellent or good at access to affordable quality housing. Then we asked an open-ended question of what do you value most about Longmont? And I put a nice little word cloud here for you. Community atmosphere, they love the people. Quality services, trails, we're gonna see they love the trails. Feeling of safety, diversity, the library, recreation. It's a beautiful community, which I attest to that. It is so beautiful. I basically skipped work just to explore Longmont. It's just so beautiful, small town feeling and a family atmosphere. And I would say everybody has been friendly. Rigo had a couple moments where it wasn't so friendly. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody's been so friendly. I seriously don't want to go home tomorrow. So thank you so much for all that. So the quality of affordable housing is most important to residents. So this was a level of satisfaction in community services. As we see here, the majority of folks are very satisfied with the public library programs and the museum programs and services, senior center programs and services, where we see a little bit of the most dissatisfaction is the quality of affordable housing. If we see all the way to the bottom, the majority of folks are dissatisfied with that. Folks aren't as satisfied in the youth center programs and services and the youth center facility, neighborhood engagement opportunities. However, if you kind of look in the middle in that gray bar, 43%, where that's the neutral folks, that's where folks are saying, well, I'm not satisfied and I'm not dissatisfied. So usually what that kind of tells me is folks just don't know about it. So they're not giving their opinion because they can't say, I'm not satisfied, or they don't use it. So they can't give an opinion of whether they're satisfied or not. So what we can do, usually people will say, okay, let's target those red folks, which in some instances, like affordable housing programs, that would bar some questions. However, when we're looking at programs and services, well, what can I do for those gray folks that are in that neutral and move them over to that blue? Is it a knowledge piece? Do I just need to make sure that they know about these programs, the facilities, and what's happening? And then, as we see here, we asked them, out of these community services, what are your top 4 most important to you and that the city should emphasize over the next 2 years? And of course, up here, 50% say quality of affordable housing is the most important to them. If you see that gray bar, that was their first choice. And quality of affordable housing was the most residents picked that as their first choice. So that is extremely important to residents. Parks and recreation services. I love that you all have so many parks and trails here. Literally, I said I skipped work today just to go explore those. We see here the majority of folks are very satisfied with the parks and trails, number of city parks, quality, the maintenance. The only thing that we see that is below the majority aren't so satisfied with is the cleanliness and quality of park restrooms. However, I would assume that that would be number one most important. However, that's the fourth most important. The things that are the most important to folks in parks and recreation services are the preservation of natural areas, the quality of walking, hiking, and biking trails, the maintenance of city parks, grounds, and facilities, and then the cleanliness and quality of park restrooms. And then, as I said earlier, residents do feel safe in the city overall, downtown, and in their neighborhoods. And what we see here is those blue bars mean that they feel very safe or safe. And as we see, we don't really see a lot of red there, and that means folks are saying that would be unsafe and safe. I mislabeled it there. I apologize about that. I'll fix that. But what we see down here are the lowest, well, actually, we're looking at fire emergency services. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm talking about. So fire and EMS services, folks are very satisfied about all these. The majority we see at the bottom, fire inspection programs in your community, and then fire prevention and risk reduction programs in your community had the least satisfaction. However, we see there in the middle, 29%, and 32% are neutral. So again, that would cue me into saying that folks probably don't know what fire inspection programs are happening or even fire prevention risk education. So that would be what can we communicate to the residents about these programs. Police services, this is where we see a lot of opportunity. So responsiveness of 911 Longmont Emergency Communication Centers to emergencies received the highest satisfaction, followed by their response to non-emergency calls, and then how quickly police do respond to emergencies. Those were the top three highest satisfaction. Where we see our opportunities is at the very bottom, enforcement of local traffic laws, efforts by police in our community to prevent crime, and then core lead angel programs to assist with alcohol and mental health issues, which, as I've heard and as I've seen, this isn't a surprise. Perception of safety. Now here's the slide that I wanted. So as we see here, majority of folks feel very safe during the day in neighborhoods. Overall, in downtown Longmont at night, and then overall in Longmont at night, folks, they still feel, the majority feel very safe. However, a larger percentage of folks feel somewhat unsafe or very unsafe. For EMS and fire services, the most important services that residents would like you to emphasize over the next 2 years is emergency preparedness and response, fire prevention and risk reduction programs in the community. And then for police services, efforts by police in the community to prevent crime, those core lead angel programs to assist with alcohol and mental health issues, enforcement of local traffic laws, and then overall quality of police services. And then we asked whether folks think that population is growing too fast, job growth is growing too fast or too slow, etc. And what we see here is folks, 78% say that population growth is growing somewhat too fast or much too fast. Green sustainable job growth, 65% of folks say that that is growing much too or somewhat too slow. Where we see folks, the majority of folks saying that growth is going just right, is industrial growth, 59%. And then job growth is a little bit, you got 45% of folks saying it's growing too slow, but then you have 49% of folks saying that it's going just right. Retail growth is leaning more onto that, growing much too or somewhat too slow. We asked with some problems in Longmont, which are major, moderate, minor, or not a problem at all. These red bars are where we're going to see these are the major problems or percentage of moderate problems. The number one, and this is the majority of folks say this is a major problem, is homelessness. Traffic issues and congestion came in number 2. Drugs, substance abuse, and then came in as number 3, and then too much growth is number 4. And just some Other findings, communication. We see here, overall, folks are very happy with the communication. Where we see some opportunities is just city's efforts to provide accessible communication. So whether that's language, skill level, etc. And then the last one, and we see the highest dissatisfaction, is with the level of public involvement in local decision making and opportunities to provide public input into decisions. However, the availability of information that you all provide, that the city provides, the quality of the newsletter, and then the efforts to keep residents informed had very high satisfaction. Maintenance, condition of street signs and traffic signals, adequacy of street lighting in your community, and then the snow removal on major streets were the top satisfied services. Where we see the least satisfied is in the quality of on-street bicycle infrastructure, which came in about 48% are satisfied. Recycling, trash, water, and electric services. I want to point out here that the majority of folks are satisfied. So 1 out of 2 households are satisfied with all recycling, trash, water, and electric services provided. So really great there. Let's see, the lowest satisfied was cost of electric services, fees of water services. Electric conservation programs and water conservation programs were the last two where folks were least satisfied. Mobility. So we saw ease of travel and walking in Longmont and then traveling by car had increases in satisfaction, where folks are pretty satisfied with, let's see, 60% of folks are satisfied with the ease of travel by bicycle in Longmont. However, we're going to see later that that is important to folks. Ease of travel by bus in Longmont had the second to least satisfied, and then support of electric vehicles. Opportunities of improvement. So this is where we get to, all right, I just unloaded a whole bunch of information to you. So where do we start with all this? So this is where we get into the analysis of tools, and this is where, so we call this our important satisfaction analysis. And so we want to key in on what services are important to residents, but then we also want to, well, what are those services that folks are least satisfied in? So those that are important and then least satisfied are going to be up more on the top of my table. So as we see here, community services, and we're going to be looking at that very high priority and high priority. So for community services, of quality of affordable housing programs, that's something that needs to have extreme emphasis on. And then the next level emphasis would be on quality of neighborhood engagement opportunities, and then also Longmont Public Library Facility, that's a high priority. Then these that are in the green, which is a medium priority, this doesn't mean that you get off the buck of not doing it, it just means keep doing what you're doing. Folks are satisfied, and it's the least important to folks. Then we did parks, trails, and open space. So where we need to provide a little bit more emphasis on over the next 2 years is the cleanliness and quality of park restrooms, and then preservation of natural areas. All the other services under the medium priority, just keep doing what you're doing. Fire and EMS services. High priority is fire prevention, risk reduction programs in the community. Everything else is under medium priority, so just keep doing what you're doing. Police services, under very high priority, efforts by police to prevent crime and enforcement of local traffic laws. These are very high priority, which means much more emphasis needs to go in to addressing that. High priority, core lead angel programs to assist with alcohol and mental health issues, overall quality of police services, and then the police outreach of safety education programs. And then medium priority is everything else, just keep doing what you're doing. Mobility, high priority, so what we need to focus on over the next couple of years, ease of travel by bicycle in the city, and then the support of electric vehicles. Maintenance services, condition of major streets, and then the quality of on-street bicycle infrastructure, bike lanes, signage, etc. And then recycling, trash, water, and electric services. Very high priority are water conservation programs, electric conservation programs, cost of electric service, fees of water services, and then high priority is fees of trash and recycling services. So just a quick summary. You all truly are setting the standard in many service areas. It's pretty amazing. just over the national average and regional average. I would consider you all, and compared to other communities, you would be in a high-performing community that we're working with. So really great job. Residents are very likely to recommend the city to others as a place to live. The quality of affordable housing is most important to residents, seems to be something that is really near and dear to their heart, that they care about. Residents are satisfied with most parks and recreation services. Residents feel safe in the city overall, downtown and in their neighborhoods. Residents think the population is growing too fast, while green or sustainable job growth is growing too slow. So next steps to just focus on those very high priorities under each of those buckets of services to raise the overall satisfaction in city services. And so thank you so much. Now, any questions?
Esther, that was amazing. You did a great job.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, Mayor Peck.
And it is a great survey for us. Do the counselors have any questions or comments for Esther? Counselor Waters.
Thanks, Mayor Peck. There, on slide 31, 34, 47, and probably go to slide 47, because the same question I would have, or about on each of those, would be the core lead angel programs, which is, I think, differentiates Longmont from a lot of communities in terms of policing.
Yeah.
I'm just, so I don't misinterpret this. In terms of, and I'd have to spend a little bit more time looking at the percentages to get I mean, because I know it can be, you want to look carefully at the data.
It's not easy to look at 7:45 p.m. I understand.
Well, it just to not overinterpret or
Yeah.
underinterpret based on levels of satisfaction. So give me your interpretation of, as a high priority, core lead and angel programs to assist. This is a high priority because what we're hearing from or what our community is saying to us is that they're dissatisfied with this.
So if you look at so let's look at that slide. So the fourth column where it says satisfaction percent, if you look on down there, it says 45% of folks are satisfied with those programs. However, if you scroll to the left to that second column of most important percent, it says 35.2% of folks say that that's most important, and then the most important rank. So that was the second most important to folks for police services. So that's what raises it into that high priority, because there's a high importance and is low satisfaction. So what this is trying to do, like I said, we want to make decisions based on what's most important to residents, but then also what are low satisfaction. Yeah. And if we focus on these, your overall satisfaction will raise.
Well, I get how these fall into this
Okay.
Category. If I were to go to pages or slides 31 and 34 maybe then become more relevant, because of then I want to wonder about that. What it triggers me is to go back to look at the gray areas, right? And how much do people know or not know about these programs?
Yeah. I mean, that does play a role in it. So, like, for example, police outreach and safety education. I'm getting a little too close to this mic. Police outreach and safety education programs, there's 39% of folks that are neutral there. So yeah, like that could mean that folks just, they don't know what police outreach and safety education programs are happening. So then it's just a knowledge thing. Where we see, 13% of folks are dissatisfied. And really, I mean, 47% of folks are satisfied in it. So, I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. So if you focus on, so maybe in that, so it's a high priority. Okay, maybe the action plan is we just need to make folks aware of it, and that's how you will raise the satisfaction.
Yeah, because as I look at the 35% or 39% in the gray area, I look at that and think that maybe say would it more inform how to think about addressing this.
Yes.
Because I'm surprised, even at the 20%, if I put the 13 and 7% together, being dissatisfied because of what I think I know about the program, and what I hear from time to time from community members about, this aha when they actually doing that without any knowledge of what we've been doing. So, all right, thanks. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for the question. It was great.
If I can jump in real quick, I think too, that's something that I picked up from the data is also informing our communication strategy and what we talk about, because you can see that in there. Those that know about core, lead, and angel are typically those that have dealt with it or been connected. A lot of people don't deal with it. And so I pay a lot of attention to the gray because that's what do we need to communicate.
Yep.
I lost all of you. There you go, Counselor Watson.
Thanks. The only, et cetera, that there just may be a trend here of a combination of folks who are just generally dissatisfied with police services across the board because of what they see and what they know and what they feel about crime and the things that we've seen related in terms of traffic, et cetera.
Or what they don't see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or what they don't see.
Yeah. So anyway, I do think it begs some additional, I don't know about analysis, but consideration of how do you respond to this one, or or what else? The listening sessions.
No, absolutely. And I think what you look at too is, I mean, this is totally what I've heard matches the data actually in terms of things, what's driving it, catalytic converter thefts, car thefts,
Sure.
those types of things. And it's a regional component that we're involved in, and it's digging in, making in order to deal with this that you've seen in the budget process. And, you know, lead and core is a good example. What I like to see is, or what we're hitting in budget, what the community wants to see. And so obviously that was in the budget process. The neighborhood engagement was in the budget process last year. We just got folks hired. So you're going to see that. So I try to also attach what the community wants with how are we funding it from a budgetary perspective. And, you know, sometimes you're lucky, and we tend to be hitting those budget issues in alignment with a lot of the data that we're seeing.
Yeah, I'll yield. I have one more question if we have time, but I'll wait.
Thank you. Counselor Hidalgo.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And actually, I'm going to be piggybacking off of the comments that Councilmember Waters had brought as a resident or community member with lived experience. So I think about my own. I have an adult son with autism, and we've had to call law enforcement. You know, one of the things we've discussed in this group, and this is really, you know, it's part of that communication piece. And I guess my question to you was, how could we, as a group or a team, be able to connect or find out pinpoint exactly why that 13% were dissatisfied, or 7% extremely dissatisfied, or even that 35% that, you know, get.
There's a few things that we can do. We can one thing is we can run cross tabulations. I'm sorry, or provide certain questions. And see, okay, is there something significant in how the folks that answered either neutral or dissatisfied with that particular question, is there something, a commonality, either demographic or questions, and that can kind of help steer us with, you know, what are we doing? But on the how, and even with communications, I mean, we could run crosstabs on anything, and we can run a significant analysis, and that will show me, okay, there's something significant here, that the probability of this is very high and true, or there's nothing significant, there's nothing to look here. So I can run a whole bunch of analytic numbers and stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I think looking at those analytical numbers and then taking it back to our team, I mean, that's where we come up with the how do we address this. So we'll come up with the how to, but really just taking a deeper look so we're addressing the right kind of issues. And I think too, and I kind of want to throw this out there to the public for a historical context. So when we were kind of with our interim public safety chief, there was a little bit of miscommunication among the departments. And I know this because we had to call, we needed support in our home with my son. And the core team came out, and it was a great experience. And, you know, they did a really good job at talking them down. Everything, you know, it worked out. Then there was supposed to be a follow-up, and that never happened. And so that's when I learned that there was, you know, just because there was a lot of transition happening at that time. So it also depends too on when the community was having interaction. If we were at a, and there was transition, and there, you know, then there was a lack of communication. We're working as our steering committee to address, and the team is doing their due diligence to ensure that that doesn't happen. There was that transition, bad experience happened, and that's what resonates.
And I think that's where just, you know, we all have to be upfront and like honest, like, yeah, we dropped the ball on that. And, you know, be honest with the public, as you all know. And I think even involving the public in it, you have a community that's engaged. I mean, Sandy and Rigo didn't know this, but I mean, I was receiving calls after whenever nearing the end of the community survey with, you know, 30 folks calling me on my personal phone saying, hey, is it still open? Yeah, go take it. I mean, you have an engaged community. They want to be engaged. They want to be a part of this community. And it shows through the data, it shows through the responses that you have people that care about it. And I know that you all care about it. The city manager, assistants, they care about it. And so it's just a collaboration of working together as a whole community.
Okay, and then my next question is in regard to the affordable housing. And when the question was asked in regard to affordable housing, is that following that criteria? So we have, you know, the Longmont Housing Authority participate. Was it in regards to that type of affordable housing program, or just making housing cost affordable for the average worker, that middle class?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it was just the quality of affordable housing. So what I would recommend is the next survey that we do, whether it's with me or another company, would be to follow up on that question. So that's whenever, okay, we can dig a little bit deeper and ask follow-up questions to that particular affordable housing piece.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
If I can jump in, I think when you look at the data, there's some interesting pieces that jumped out at me. So obviously we've been living the affordable, attainable housing conversations and the work that we've been doing. So that number didn't surprise me. The thing that, and this is what I was telling Sandy, is where I want to look at some data to really understand what that means. Is so when you look at, we have a lack of quality affordable housing, and then you compare that against the growth. Those are two interesting variables that pull against each other that I want to dig into a little bit more, because in order to get quality affordable housing, that's going to necessitate growth. And so those were both fairly significant data points that came out that I'm going to want to dig into a little bit more and really kind of understand some nuances, because you know, that's just one that hit me, where they're pulling against each other. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit.
And I would like to be incled in that
And I will say that
study.
the quality of affordable housing, this is a national thing. So as you all probably know. So you all are not alone in this, but this is a national thing that we're seeing in our community surveys that we're conducting. Is there is a national high dissatisfaction in the access to affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilor Martin, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. First of all, I would like to compliment you on the quality of the survey. It has a distinct lack of misleading questions, a really nice presentation in terms of, you know, breaking things down in relevant ways. So thank you very much. It's also very validating to us as a council, because if you look at the things that the public prioritizes as a need, they are also things that the council the city, I shouldn't just give the council all the credit, but the city is already prioritizing as a need. But my real comment is in terms of the use of this data. I think that an annotation for the public and some root cause analysis would be extremely useful. I can think of some causes that do not show up in the data, but that we know it. So for example, a year ago, there was a devastating fire. Didn't hit Longmont, but it almost did.
Yeah.
And Longmont, I don't think we've ever had any dissatisfaction before, I could be wrong, about fire services delivery. You know, everybody's happy that they'll come change your smoke alarm batteries and, you know, feels really beloved by the fire protection services. But the coordination, interjurisdictional coordination of people's concerns about fire safety has been a problem all year long. This fall, there is a ballot question that will fund it better. The people's satisfaction improve, and that measure passes so that there's money to use to improve it, then we know we've got a real problem. Not that it's not a real problem now, but it was really hard for Longmont as a separate municipality to fix some of the problems. Now, the county, in conjunction with Longmont, should be addressed. I can get a huge amount out of this study by, you know, putting a bright star on some of those special circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take one more comment, Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
And not just statements. With some of your past surveys that you've done for different communities, when you do, say, another survey for that same community, year down the road, 2 years down the road, when it comes to the gray section or the neutral sections, the communities that have done a good job of maybe condensing that so you're actually getting more opinions on either dissatisfied or satisfied, has it been more of an information effort on that community's part to make sure that you're actually getting a one it doesn't affect them directly, just on that from a community that you've done multiple surveys for?
Because they know about it or they're not utilizing it. So that one's a little bit harder to really. What was it? Just they just aren't utilizing it. So that's whenever, if it's Parks and Recreation, that's when Park Recreation needs assessment comes in handy. So additional surveys to what is that? What are those neutral folks? Is it just engagement, etc.? But for the most part, it has really been that informational piece. Just don't know what is going on in that particular.
Thanks, Mayor Peck. The last question for me. I didn't pick it up on your slides. In the report that we got, on page 34, I think. Let me scroll down just a bit. Page 30. This is degree, if at all, are each of the following a problem in Longmont, right? And then we have from high to low. The top of that list is homelessness, with actually 76% of the population identifying it as a serious or somewhat serious problem, major versus moderate. But I don't see homeless showing up anywhere else. And did I miss it? In terms of how urgent a concern or?
So I see it a lot in the comments where we have that open-ended comment where the question is, what do you value most about Longmont? However, whenever you allow them to write more than, we give them the control. That's where I see the homeless topic come up. That is something that I even brought up with Rigo and Sandy earlier, was that homelessness piece. I think that would be more questions to dig a little bit where homelessness.
Of all the things we've identified as priority to address, there's more dissatisfaction here than on any of the others, and yet it doesn't show up in terms of a focus, action to take, you know, which is a little bit puzzling. I think that's, for me, that there's then a whole series of answered questions about how to interpret that and why it doesn't show up and how to address this.
Definitely there is on the survey administration route, there are certain things that we could do to ask questions that then we could run analysis that would give us the answer that you're looking for.
I'm not the only one who would look
Something that, I want to dig in a little bit deeper.
worthy of more analysis.
And even me driving around, I'm like wondering about it.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. It's interesting how it showed up as people are satisfied, but in the things they want to gotta dig into because
Be an interesting the comments. Could pull the comment and say if this comment showed up X amount of times, this was and highlight the top comments that and put a number to them like you did. That would be interesting to what they were actually saying.
Yeah, and my gut with this is I've talked to you all about homelessness and different levels of what you don't see, and I think this is probably going to show itself in the comments, and it's what we're seeing, and it's not homelessness in a sense, it's really the homelessness that we're seeing. Lanyon Park that we dealt with, 17th and Main, that came to our attention, but something that I'm curious about.
Great. Seeing no other comments. So we have one more presentation, and that is the determination of when a newly elected councilor should office. Don Quintana, our city clerk, will provide us with that information.
Thank you, Mayor. Esther was much taller than I, and she did a good job. So we're here tonight just to give you a brief presentation, nothing different than what was actually in your council packet, but wanted to quickly for the public's benefit, and then also get your feedback. So the question is, when should we swear in the newly elected at-large person? Ballots go out this week, so you can keep your eye out for those in the mail. This is a special election in odd number years. That terminology is important as we walk through. The charter tells us that in a regular election, a council member's or a council person's term will begin at 7:30 p.m. the Monday following the election, the regular city election. But the charter and code tell us nothing. They're totally silent on when a council person would take office after a special election. Historically, we have sworn people elected at special election followed that pattern and sworn them in the Monday following the election. And in fact, that's when we swore in Councilmember Waters when he was elected in special election in 2018. Thank you. We're making an assumption on presumptive election results. We don't have final results. It's not best practice. There's a significant portion of people that vote on election day. Something like 25% or more vote actually on election day. So when we don't wait for those results, we're not honoring every person's voice, every person's vote. So our recommendation after a big discussion with the city attorney's office, city clerk's office, and city manager's office, we recommend that we would swear the new person in on Tuesday, December 6th. This would be following the release of certified election results that are due Wednesday, November 30th. Tuesday, December 6th is the first meeting you all have following the release of those certified results. All votes would have been counted, and then this would be consistent with the changes we have included on ballot question 3A to amend the charter to change the term for a council person in a regular city election to begin the first Tuesday after results are certified. So we wanted to run through that with you and see if you had any feedback and if you concur with this approach or Any questions or concerns?
I'm going to make a motion that I move that we affirm the approach described and have the newly elected council member take office on Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. And that has been seconded by Council Member Martin. And is there any discussion? Councilor Hidalgo Faring.
So I do have a question. So on the 6th, you know, because I'm trying to think back during mine, I know there was one meeting where it was very light, it was easy. I did make a motion to have our discussion on the retreat
Yes,
at that day.
yes.
Will that be able to still take place?
Absolutely.
Okay, you got my vote.
We also plan to bring later that day, assuming that you would like to have that discussion as a body instead of missing one person's input, so. Absolutely. I see it on the list already.
Seeing no other discussion, vote. And that passes unanimously. Looking forward to see who's going to be sitting in that seat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So with our study session items, are there any mayor and council comments at this point? Seeing none, we're going to move on to city manager remarks. City attorney, Eugene? No comments. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
That motion carried unanimously. Longmont Housing Authority. Yes. In 10 minutes, we all need a break. Pardon me?